Hello everyone, welcome to one of the most fundamental and powerful questions of this entire course. What is leadership? Before we talk about strategies, models, frameworks, or advanced leadership mastery, we must first deeply understand what leadership truly means. And I want you to approach this not as a definition to memorize, but as a concept to internalize. Let me ask you something. Have you ever worked under a manager who had authority, but no real influence? And have you ever met someone without any official title, yet everyone listened when they spoke? That difference right there, that's leadership. Leadership is not a title. One of the biggest misconceptions about leadership is that it comes with a position. Many people think, when I become a manager, I'll be a leader. When I get promoted, then I'll lead. But leadership is not about hierarchy, it is about influence. You can be a teacher leading students, a developer guiding a project team, a customer service representative setting the tone for client relationships, a parent shaping values, even a student influencing peers. Leadership is the ability to influence others toward a shared purpose. Notice something important here. Influence, not control. Control uses authority. Leadership uses trust. Leadership is influence with responsibility. Let's define it more clearly. Leadership is the ability to influence, inspire, and guide individuals or groups toward achieving meaningful goals. There are three key elements in that definition: influence, inspiration, direction toward goals. Let's break them down with examples. Leadership is influence. Imagine two project managers. Manager A says, "This is the deadline, just do it." Manager B says, "I know this deadline is tight. Let's divide the tasks smartly. I trust your expertise and we can do this together." Both have authority, but only one is leading. Leadership influence comes from credibility, character, competence, consistency. People follow leaders they trust. Think about someone you admire professionally. Why do you respect them? It's rarely because of their job title. It's because of how they act. Leadership is inspiration. Leadership is not just about getting things done. It's about making people want to do them. Let's take an example. Two sales directors address their teams. Director 1, "We must hit the quarterly target. If we fail, bonuses are gone." Director 2, "This quarter is an opportunity to prove what we're capable of. If we align, support each other, and stay focused, we won't just hit the target, we'll raise our standard." The second leader connects the goal to meaning. Inspiration answers the question, why does this matter? Without inspiration, you get compliance. With inspiration, you get commitment. Leadership is direction. Leadership is not just motivation. It is not just positivity. It also requires clarity. A leader provides vision, where are we going? Strategy, how will we get there? Priorities, what matters most right now? Imagine being in a boat in the middle of the ocean. You have a motivated crew. You have strong energy. You have enthusiasm, but no compass. That's not leadership. That's chaos. Leadership combines vision with execution. Leadership versus management. Let's clarify another common confusion. Management is about systems. Leadership is about people. Managers plan, organize, and control processes. Leaders inspire, align, and transform people. You can be a manager without being a leader, but you cannot be a great leader without managing responsibility. In advanced leadership mastery, the best professionals combine both. Leadership in real life, practical examples. Let's bring this closer to your world. Example 1. Leadership in a classroom. A teacher enters the room. Option A. Open your books. Today we will cover chapter 5. Option B. Today we're going to explore an idea that will change how you see this subject. Same content, different leadership impact. Leadership changes energy. Example 2. Leadership in crisis. Imagine a company facing financial difficulties. A weak leader says, "I don't know what will happen, let's just wait." A real leader says, "This is challenging, but we will face it together. Here is our plan. Here is what we control. Here is what we'll focus on." Leadership provides stability when uncertainty rises. Example 3. Leadership without authority. Let's say you're not a manager, you're a team member. Your colleague struggles with a task. You say, Let me help you. I've done something similar before. You take initiative. You support. You guide. That is leadership. Leadership begins with behavior, not position. The core components of leadership. As we move deeper into this course, we will explore advanced theories and models. But at the foundation, leadership rests on self-awareness, emotional intelligence, communication skills, decision-making ability, integrity, accountability. You cannot lead others effectively if you cannot lead yourself. That's why leadership starts internally. Before asking, how do I lead a team? Ask, do I manage my emotions? Do I keep my promises? Do I take responsibility? Do people trust my word? Leadership is a mirror before it becomes a megaphone. Leadership is a choice. Here is something powerful. Leadership is not something you are given. It is something you choose. Every day you choose to complain or to take initiative, to blame or to solve, to dominate or to listen, to react emotionally or to respond thoughtfully. Leadership lives in those micro decisions. Leadership is a continuous journey. In this course, Leadership, from fundamentals to advanced leadership mastery, we will not just define leadership. We will analyze classical and modern leadership theories, study behavioral and situational approaches, explore decision-making frameworks, develop communication mastery, strengthen strategic thinking, practice real-life scenarios. But everything begins here. Understanding that leadership is not about power, it is about responsibility. It is not about being in front. It is about moving people forward. Final reflection for you. Before we move to the next lesson, I want you to reflect on this. Think of one person who positively influenced your life. What did they actually do? How did they make you feel? That feeling, that impact, is leadership. And the exciting part? It is learnable. It is developable. And throughout this course, you will not just understand leadership, you will start practicing it. Welcome to your leadership journey. In this lesson, we're going to explore one of the most misunderstood topics in the business world: leadership versus management. Many people use these two terms interchangeably, but they are not the same. And if you truly want to move from fundamentals to advanced leadership mastery, you must clearly understand the difference. Let's break it down together. Leadership and management, the core difference. In simple terms, management is about systems, processes, and control. Leadership is about vision, people, and influence. A manager ensures that things run correctly. A leader ensures that the right things are being done. Management focuses on efficiency. Leadership focuses on direction and inspiration. Let me give you a very simple example. Imagine a ship crossing the ocean. The manager makes sure the engine works, the schedule is followed, fuel is calculated, and the crew follows procedures. The leader decides where the ship should go, why it should go there, and inspires the crew to believe in the journey. Both roles are important, but they are not the same. Focus, stability versus change. One of the biggest differences lies in how they deal with change. Managers prefer stability. Managers plan, budget, organize, monitor performance, reduce risk. They create order. They minimize chaos. They ensure predictability. For example, a production manager in a factory ensures daily output targets are met. They track performance metrics, manage schedules, and correct deviations. Their question is, how can we maintain performance? Leaders embrace change. Leaders create vision, challenge the status quo, inspire innovation, drive transformation. They are comfortable with uncertainty. For example, a leader in the same factory might ask, what if we redesign our entire production model to become fully automated within 5 years? That question creates disruption, but also growth. Authority versus influence. Managers rely on formal authority. They have job titles, defined responsibilities, organizational power. People follow managers because they have to. Leaders rely on influence. They may or may not have a formal title. People follow leaders because they want to. Let's look at a workplace example. You've probably seen this before. The department manager assigns tasks, but there's one experienced team member everyone listens to. When that person speaks, the room becomes quiet. That person may not have a management title, but they are leading. Leadership is not about position, it is about impact. Short-term versus long-term thinking. Managers focus on quarterly results, KPIs, budgets, deadlines. Leaders focus on vision, culture, long-term strategy, meaning. Let me ask you something. If a company hits all quarterly targets but destroys employee morale in the process, is that success? A manager may say, "We achieved the numbers." A leader asks, "At what cost?" Advanced leadership requires seeing beyond spreadsheets. Problem solving versus possibility thinking. Managers solve problems. Leaders create possibilities. Example: a sales team misses its target. A manager might analyze the numbers, identify underperformance, adjust quotas, implement stricter monitoring. A leader might ask the team what's blocking them, redefine the sales strategy, introduce new motivation systems, inspire belief in a bigger goal. Both approaches matter, but they operate at different levels. Emotional dimension. Management can function without deep emotional connection. Leadership cannot. Leadership requires emotional intelligence, empathy, self-awareness, trust building. Imagine two scenarios. Scenario A. A manager says, "You missed the deadline. This is unacceptable." Scenario B. A leader says, "I noticed you struggled this week. What happened? How can I support you?" Which one builds loyalty? Leadership is human-centered. Risk orientation. Managers tend to minimize risk. Leaders are willing to take calculated risks. Think about major innovations in history. None came from pure risk avoidance. If everyone only managed existing systems, progress would stop. Leadership asks, "What if?" Management asks, "How?" Both questions are powerful, but they serve different purposes. Can one person be both? Absolutely. In fact, the best executives master both. Early in your career, you may manage tasks. As you grow, you must lead people. Advanced leadership mastery means knowing when to control, knowing when to empower, knowing when to stabilize, knowing when to transform. Too much management creates bureaucracy. Too much leadership without management creates chaos. Balance is the key. A practical workplace example. Let's imagine you are leading a software development team. As a manager, you set sprint deadlines, track progress, allocate resources, review performance. As a leader, you communicate a compelling product vision, inspire the team to build something meaningful, encourage creativity, build psychological safety. If you only manage, the team delivers code but feels disconnected. If you only lead, the team feels inspired, but deadlines are missed. Mastery lies in integration. A reflection for you. Let me ask you something important. When your team struggles, do you increase control, management instinct, increase clarity and inspiration, leadership instinct? There is no right or wrong answer, but awareness is power. Final thought. Management makes systems work. Leadership makes people believe. Management maintains. Leadership transforms. As future advanced leaders, your goal is not to choose one over the other. Your goal is to develop the discipline of management and the courage of leadership. Because in today's world, organizations do not just need managers. They need leaders who can also manage. And that is exactly what this course will help you become. Let's continue the journey. Why leadership matters in modern organizations. If you remember, in the previous lessons we explored what leadership is. Now we are going deeper. Not theory for the sake of theory, but reality. The kind of leadership that determines whether organizations grow or collapse, innovate or stagnate, inspire or exhaust their people. Let's talk honestly and practically. Modern organizations are more complex than ever. We are not living in the industrial age anymore. Today's organizations operate in global markets, digital environments, remote and hybrid work models, rapid technological change, constant competition, social media transparency. A manager can maintain a system. A leader guides people through uncertainty. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two companies facing AI-driven disruption in their industry. In Company A, the manager says, We need to implement AI tools because competitors are doing it. Employees feel fear, rumors spread, resistance increases. In Company B, the leader says, AI will change how we work. Let's learn it together. Here's how this helps us grow, not replace us. Training is provided. Employees feel included. Innovation increases. Same technology, different leadership, completely different outcomes. That's why leadership matters. Leadership drives organizational culture. Culture is not written on the wall. Culture is what leaders tolerate, reward, and model. Think about companies like Google, Tesla, Apple. Each organization has a distinct culture. That culture reflects leadership style. For example, if a leader encourages experimentation, culture becomes innovative. Punishes mistakes harshly, culture becomes fearful. Listens actively, culture becomes collaborative. Micromanages, culture becomes dependent. Let's imagine a team meeting. Leader 1 says, "Why did this fail? Who is responsible?" Leader 2 says, "What did we learn from this? How can we improve next time?" The first creates blame, the second creates growth. In modern organizations, culture is everything, and leadership shapes culture every single day. Leadership builds trust in an era of uncertainty. We live in uncertain times, economic fluctuations, political instability, global crises, rapid digital transformation. When uncertainty increases, anxiety increases. And when anxiety increases, people look for leadership. Think about crisis moments. During the COVID-19 pandemic, organizations with transparent and empathetic leaders retained more trust and engagement. Leaders who communicated openly, even when they didn't have all the answers, built psychological safety. Leadership matters because people don't follow titles, they follow trust. As a leader, your clarity becomes their stability. Leadership impacts employee engagement and retention. Let me ask you a powerful question. Why do people leave jobs? Most of the time, they don't leave companies, they leave leaders. Research consistently shows that poor leadership is one of the top reasons for employee turnover. Let's look at two scenarios. Scenario A. A talented employee has ideas. The manager ignores them. There is no feedback, no recognition, no growth. Result? Low motivation, quiet quitting, resignation. Scenario B. A leader invests time in coaching, provides feedback, recognizes effort, aligns work with personal development goals. Result? High engagement, loyalty, performance improvement. Modern organizations compete not only for customers, but for talent, and talent stays where leadership inspires. Leadership drives innovation. Innovation does not come from processes alone. It comes from people who feel safe to think differently. Consider leaders like Satya Nadella, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. When Satya Nadella became CEO of Microsoft, he shifted the culture from know-it-all to learn-it-all. That cultural shift reignited innovation. Leadership matters because innovation requires risk. Risk requires psychological safety. Psychological safety requires trust. Trust requires leadership. Without leadership, organizations become bureaucratic. With leadership, they become adaptive. Leadership aligns vision and execution. Modern organizations move fast, but moving fast without direction is chaos. Leadership provides vision, where are we going? Meaning, why does it matter? Alignment, how do our roles connect to the mission? Imagine a rowing team. If everyone rows strongly but in different directions, the boat spins in circles. Leadership synchronizes effort. A powerful leader connects daily tasks to long-term purpose. Instead of, "Finish this report," the leader says, "This report will help us enter a new market and create 200 new jobs." Purpose transforms routine work into meaningful contribution. Leadership enables adaptability. The modern world rewards adaptability, not rigidity. Organizations that survive are not necessarily the biggest, but the most adaptable. Leadership determines adaptability by encouraging learning, embracing change, making quick but thoughtful decisions, empowering teams to act. Think about companies that failed to adapt to digital transformation. They had resources, they had systems. What they lacked was adaptive leadership. In today's environment, leadership is not optional, it is survival. Leadership shapes ethical standards. Modern organizations operate under public scrutiny. One unethical decision can destroy reputation overnight. Leadership sets ethical tone. If leaders manipulate numbers, employees normalize dishonesty, act with integrity, ethical behavior spreads. Employees observe more than they listen. Your behavior becomes the standard. Leadership creates emotional energy. Organizations are emotional systems. When leaders are cynical, teams become disengaged. Fear-driven, teams become defensive. Visionary, teams become inspired. Empathetic, teams become loyal. Leadership is emotional influence. In modern organizations, especially hybrid and remote ones, emotional intelligence is not a soft skill, it is a strategic skill. Leadership multiplies impact. Finally, here is the most important reason. Leadership multiplies capability. A single high-performing employee creates value. A high-performing leader creates high-performing teams. That is exponential impact. If you improve your leadership, productivity increases, innovation increases, trust increases, retention increases, reputation increases. Leadership is leverage. Final reflection for you. As future leaders or current leaders improving yourselves, ask, do I create clarity or confusion? Do I build trust or fear? Do I encourage growth or protect comfort? Do people perform better because I lead them? Modern organizations do not need more managers. They need conscious, adaptable, emotionally intelligent leaders. And that is exactly why this course exists. In the next lessons, we will break down the skills, behaviors, and mindsets that transform ordinary managers into exceptional leaders. Because leadership is not about authority, it is about influence, responsibility, and impact. And in modern organizations, that impact determines everything. In this lesson, we are going to challenge something very powerful, the myths and misconceptions about leadership. If you truly want to move from fundamentals to advanced leadership mastery, you must first unlearn what is false. Because many talented people never become great leaders, not due to lack of skill, but because they believe the wrong things about leadership. Let's break these myths down together, one by one. Myth 1. Leaders are born, not made. This is probably the most dangerous myth. You may have heard, she's a natural-born leader. He just has leadership in his DNA. I'm not the leadership type. Let me ask you something. Was anyone born knowing how to handle conflict, inspire a team, communicate a vision, manage crisis? Of course not. Leadership is a set of skills, mindsets, and habits. Yes, some people may naturally be more extroverted or confident, but leadership is not about personality. It is about behavior and growth. Example, think about someone who was shy in school but later became a strong manager. What changed? Not their DNA. Their exposure, training, self-awareness, and practice changed. Leadership is developed through feedback, through mistakes, through reflection, through responsibility. If leadership were purely genetic, there would be no need for leadership education, coaching, or development programs. Yet entire organizations invest billions in leadership training every year. Why? Because leadership can be learned, and that includes you. Myth 2. Leadership is about authority and position. Many people think leadership equals title. I'm not a manager, so I'm not a leader. Once I become director, then I'll lead. This is a misunderstanding. Leadership is influence, not position. You can have authority without leadership, and you can show leadership without authority. Example, imagine a team project. The official team leader is silent, disengaged, and unclear. But one team member consistently clarifies goals, motivates others, solves conflicts, keeps everyone focused. Who is leading? Leadership is behavior. It is not printed on your business card. In fact, some of the strongest leaders in organizations have no formal title. They lead through expertise, trust, emotional intelligence, initiative. If you wait for a title to start leading, you are already limiting yourself. Myth 3. Leaders must be extroverted and charismatic. This myth excludes many potential leaders. People assume leaders must speak loudly, dominate meetings, be highly social, energize rooms with big gestures. But leadership is not performance. Some of the most effective leaders are quiet, thoughtful, analytical, deep listeners. Charisma can help, but it is not a requirement. Example: imagine two managers. Manager A, very charismatic, speaks beautifully, but doesn't listen, avoids tough conversations, and makes impulsive decisions. Manager B, calm, measured, listens carefully, makes thoughtful decisions, supports the team consistently. Which one builds long-term trust? Leadership effectiveness is built on consistency, integrity, emotional control, decision quality, not volume. If you are introverted, reflective, or calm, do not think you are at a disadvantage. You may have leadership strengths others don't. Myth 4. Leaders must have all the answers. This myth creates ego-driven leadership. Some leaders believe admitting "I don't know" shows weakness. Asking for help reduces authority. Leaders must always appear confident and certain. This mindset damages trust. Modern leadership is not about having all the answers. It is about asking better questions. Example: imagine a technology company facing a complex problem. The leader pretends to understand everything and makes a quick decision without consulting experts. The project fails. Now imagine a leader who says, "I don't have all the information yet. Let's bring the right people together." Which approach builds stronger results? Advanced leadership means encouraging expertise, creating psychological safety, admitting limitations, facilitating collaboration. Confidence does not mean pretending to know everything. It means being secure enough to admit you don't. Myth 5. Leadership means being in control all the time. Many people confuse leadership with dominance. They think leaders must control every detail, monitor every action, approve every small decision, be involved in everything. This is not leadership. This is micromanagement. True leadership creates autonomy. Example: a manager checks every email before it is sent. The team becomes dependent, slow, and disengaged. Another manager sets clear expectations, defines standards, and trusts the team to deliver. The team grows in confidence and performance. Which environment develops future leaders? Leadership is not about controlling people. It is about empowering them. If your team cannot function without you, that is not strength. That is dependency. Myth 6. Leadership is about being liked. This is especially common among new leaders. They want everyone to approve of them, no conflicts, no uncomfortable conversations. But leadership requires courage. Sometimes leadership means giving tough feedback, making unpopular decisions, setting boundaries, saying no. If you focus only on being liked, you may avoid necessary actions. Example: a manager refuses to confront underperformance because they fear damaging relationships. The result? High performers become frustrated, standards drop, trust decreases. Leadership is not about popularity, it is about responsibility. You can be respectful, empathetic, and human without sacrificing standards. Myth 7. Leadership is only for business. Leadership is not limited to corporate environments. You lead in your family, in your community, in your classroom, in your friendships, in volunteer work. Leadership is influence in any human system. For example, a parent modeling discipline and empathy is showing leadership. A student organizing a study group is showing leadership. A team member speaking up against unethical behavior is showing leadership. Leadership is a life skill, not just a career skill. Myth 8. Strong leaders never show vulnerability. Old leadership models promoted emotional suppression. Never show weakness. Always be strong. Stay distant. But modern research shows something different. Vulnerability builds trust. This does not mean oversharing or emotional instability. It means admitting mistakes, being transparent, expressing uncertainty appropriately, showing humanity. Example: a leader says, "I made the wrong decision on that project. I take responsibility, and here's what will change." This increases respect, not decreases it. People trust leaders who are human, not perfect. Why these myths are dangerous? because they stop capable people from stepping into leadership, create ego-driven management styles, encourage control instead of empowerment, reward image over substance. If you believe leadership is about personality, title, or dominance, you may either avoid leadership or practice it in an unhealthy way. Advanced leadership mastery requires clarity, and clarity begins by challenging false beliefs. A reflection for you. Let me ask you personally, which of these myths have you believed? Have you ever thought, "I'm not leadership material"? Have you avoided difficult decisions to be liked? Have you waited for a title before acting like a leader? Awareness is the first transformation step. Leadership mastery is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing the illusions that prevent you from becoming your best leadership self. In the next lessons, we will replace these myths with evidence-based leadership principles and practical frameworks you can apply immediately. Remember, leadership is not a personality type. It is not a job title. It is not control. Leadership is responsibility, influence, growth, and service, and it is absolutely learnable. Let's continue building it together. In this lesson, we are going to explore a very powerful and sometimes misunderstood topic: leadership in personal versus professional life. Many people think leadership only belongs to titles: CEO, manager, director, team leader. But real leadership goes far beyond job descriptions. Leadership is not a position. It is a way of thinking, behaving, and influencing, both at work and in your personal life. Let's explore this deeply and practically. Leadership is one identity, two contexts. You do not have two different personalities, one at work and one at home. You have one character, expressed in different environments. However, the application of leadership changes depending on context. Think about this. At work, you might lead a team of 10 employees. At home, you might lead by example for your children. In your friend group, you might be the one who initiates plans. In your community, you might volunteer and inspire others. Leadership is not about authority. It is about influence, responsibility, and impact. As John C. Maxwell famously says, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. The environment changes. The core leadership principles do not. Leadership in professional life. Let's start with professional leadership. Professional leadership focuses on performance, results, strategy, accountability, organizational goals. Example, the team leader. Imagine you are leading a project team. Your responsibilities may include setting clear goals, assigning tasks, monitoring deadlines, motivating team members, resolving conflicts. If a team member underperforms, you cannot ignore it. You must address it professionally. Professional leadership requires clear communication, structured feedback, decision-making under pressure, emotional control. Example 2. Leading without a title. Let's say you are not a manager. You are a team member. But when problems arise, you offer solutions, stay calm, help others, take responsibility. You are already leading. Leadership in professional life is often visible and measurable. Deadlines, revenue, productivity, team engagement. The stakes are usually financial or performance-related. Leadership in personal life. Now let's move to personal leadership. This is where many people fail, not because they are bad leaders at work, but because they disconnect leadership from their private life. Personal leadership is about self-discipline, emotional maturity, integrity, long-term thinking, value-based decisions. Example, leading yourself. Suppose you set a goal to wake up early and exercise. Nobody forces you. No manager checks your performance. But if you consistently keep your promise to yourself, you are practicing self-leadership. Self-leadership includes managing your emotions, controlling impulses, staying consistent, taking responsibility for your mistakes. Before you lead others, you must lead yourself. Example 2. Leadership in family life. Let's say you are a parent. Your children do not follow your instructions. They follow your behavior. If you stay calm during conflict, admit when you are wrong, show respect to your spouse, manage stress responsibly, you are modeling leadership. Family leadership is less about authority and more about example. Key differences between personal and professional leadership. Let's break this down conceptually. Accountability. Professional, you are accountable to the organization. Personal, you are accountable to your values and conscience. Feedback structure. Professional, formal feedback systems exist. Performance reviews. Personal, feedback is emotional and relational. Trust, respect, harmony. Authority. Professional, you may have formal authority. Personal, authority is earned through character. Consequences. Professional, mistakes may affect revenue or performance. Personal, mistakes affect trust, relationships, and emotional safety, where they overlap. Now, here is something very important. The best leaders are consistent across both worlds. If you are respectful at work but rude at home, disciplined in meetings but chaotic in personal life, ethical publicly but dishonest privately, then you are not truly integrated as a leader. True leadership is alignment. Professional excellence without personal integrity is incomplete. Emotional intelligence, the bridge between both worlds. Emotional intelligence is the bridge. In professional life, you manage team conflicts, you give constructive feedback, you handle pressure. In personal life, you manage family disagreements, you respond instead of react, you listen deeply. The environment changes, but emotional intelligence remains essential in both. For example, at work, an employee misses a deadline. You respond calmly and seek solutions. At home, your partner forgets something important. You respond calmly instead of escalating. Same skill, different setting. Self-leadership, the foundation of all leadership. You cannot separate personal and professional leadership because both depend on one thing: self-leadership. If you cannot control your anger, manage your time, keep commitments, take responsibility, then eventually your professional leadership will collapse. Many leaders fail not because of poor strategy, but because of poor character management. Leadership begins in private long before it becomes visible in public. Practical reflection exercise. Let me challenge you with reflection questions. Are you more patient at work than at home? Do you show more respect to your manager than to your family? Are you more disciplined professionally than personally? If your family described your leadership style, what would they say? These questions are uncomfortable, and that is why they are powerful. Real-world scenario comparison. Let's compare two scenarios. Scenario A, professional conflict. Two team members argue in a meeting. As a leader, you listen to both sides, clarify the issue, focus on solutions, maintain neutrality. Scenario B, personal conflict. You disagree with a close friend. Do you interrupt, get defensive, escalate emotionally? Or do you apply the same structured, calm leadership approach? Consistency is maturity. Advanced leadership mastery, integration. At advanced levels, leadership mastery means you do not switch values depending on context. You are calm under stress everywhere, ethical everywhere, respectful everywhere, accountable everywhere. The setting changes, your principles do not. This is what separates positional leaders from transformational leaders. Final thought. Leadership is not something you turn on when you enter the office. It is who you are. If you want to master professional leadership, start by mastering personal leadership. Because the strongest professional leaders are those who lead themselves well, lead their families with integrity, lead their teams with clarity, lead their lives with purpose. In our next lessons, we will go deeper into how to align your personal and professional leadership identity so you can become a truly integrated leader, not just successful, but respected. And remember, the way you live when nobody is watching determines the leader you become when everybody is watching. Let's continue building that leader together.